And we're live! Hello, everyone. We're going to give a couple seconds for us to all to go on our phones and tell everyone to get online real quick. I haven't figured out how to do the fade in, fade out, so you get to see it real life. Online real quick.
I'm going to mute it so I can watch it in two places at once.
Exactly. Moment.
So we can make sure we see any questions that come in as we get this party started.
Exactly. I'm going to host a watch party. Well, anyway, while I figure this out, welcome to Imperial Kitchen Series, a brand new event for the Imperial Court of New York featuring cooking and fundraising. What better combo, right?
Absolutely.
My host tonight is Jen Sinclair on the name, but Princess Royale Cutie Pie, who's also our, resident chef, baker, pastry chef, all the above, kitchen manager. And then our other co-host who might pop in, who's on vacation in Puerto Rico, is Nelson Bonaparte, Marquis Nelson Bonaparte, who also is another trained chef. So getting all the best people in on this. And our special guests are our reigning monarchs.
Yay!
Hi, everyone.
Empress Madelyn Keyth and Emperor Graham the Cracker.
How you doing?
So welcome. I'm going to, looking at a little script here. Oh, yes. Trinity Place Shelter. There we go. Fundraising. That's what we're here for. Trinity Place Shelter, which is a 10-bed LGBTQ youth homeless shelter. One of our biggest beneficiaries and biggest partners is tonight's beneficiary. You can go to, as it says at the bottom of the screen, icny.org/kitchen. It'll be a PayPal donation. So please, anything you're able to donate, please do. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Cutie Pie.
Well, our first thing that we're going to do is going to be from our reigning emperor. He's going to make us a signature cocktail just to get us started in the night. So we have something to drink while we watch the main event happening. So I think we can pass it fully over to Graham. And then if there's any questions about what he's making, you can put it into the chat. And I'll ask him some questions afterwards about his specialty signature things that are going into this cocktail. So Michael, I think you can give it fully over to Graham.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. So tonight, the signature cocktail is going to be a Negroni. And it turns out that this cocktail has actually been around for about 100 years. It was developed in Italy, as you can well imagine, because of the Campari. And there was a count whose name was Camillo Negroni, ergo the name, who had this drink that was made with Campari and gin and soda. And it was called a Milano Torino, which became the Me Too here in the United States. But what happened was he didn't think that it tasted that good, and he wanted something added to it. So instead of the soda, the bartender at the bar where he worked decided to add in a little bit of sweet vermouth. And that became the Negroni. So tonight, what we're doing is we are taking the cocktail shaker, adding a little bit of ice. Now, the other part of this is that there are two schools of thought about this. You can either shake this or stir it. We like the shaked version because it makes it a little more fancy, and you can put it in cocktail glasses. But you can also make it in a cocktail mixer with a cocktail spoon and a strainer. But we're going to do the shaken version tonight. So the ingredients are, the first thing that goes in is gin. And we like Hendrick's gin, so we're going to use Hendrick's gin tonight. And the classic recipe calls for 1, 1, and 1. But we use 2, 2, and 2 because we have big cocktail glasses. So we're doing 2, 2, and 2 tonight. So 2 gin. Campari. Interesting thing about Campari, as you can see, it has a beautiful red color. Turns out that originally this was made red by using squashed bugs called cochineals. They now use red dye, but originally the reason why this was red because they used the cochineal bugs in it. So 2 of the Campari. And then the final ingredient, the classic recipe calls for 1, 1, and 1. We like it 2, 2, and 1. So we only put 1 of the vermouth in, but you could, in the classic recipe, if you wanted to put 2 of the vermouth in, you could. And you use red vermouth for this one. So you're using red vermouth, Campari, and gin in the cocktail. You put the lid on it, and a cocktail shaker, and it turns out that when you shake a cocktail shaker, you're supposed to shake it in waltz time. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's how you shake a cocktail shaker. These glasses, unfortunately, they were very recently, they actually were very frosted because they had water and ice in them to make them nice and cold. That has changed a little bit since we started. And the garnish for the drink is an orange peel. Just use a vegetable peeler, take the vegetable peeler and take the peel off of the orange. And it's very important that when you put it in the glass, you take the orange peel and you give it a twist. Because what that does is release the essential oils of the orange skin and gives you a nice, I can smell it now, it gives you a nice spritz of the orange flavor. And of course the cocktail shaker's not going to, there we go. And then you just simply pour it in the cocktail glass. Now, as I said before, we like to drink them out of martini glasses or cocktail glasses. But you can make this in a regular cocktail mixer with a stir and stuff like that. But when you're finished with it, you still pour it over ice in a regular rocks glass. So tonight we're drinking it out. He's drinking it out of the Hoya. I'm drinking it out of the San Luis, and we're enjoying our cocktails this evening.
I'm cheersing you with the green tea because I wasn't able to get all the ingredients.
Cheers. So this is actually it's actually a very interesting drink. It turns out that it was one of the favorite drinks of Ernest Hemingway. It turns out that Anthony Bourdain used to make these all the time, and when he was filming his shows, he actually used to make pictures of these things for his crew when he was filming his television shows, because it was among his favorite cocktails. So any questions about this?
Absolutely. There are a few questions coming in for sure. And I agree that like kitchen people love Negronis. When I worked in catering, when there was an especially large catering event and it was like grueling and we were tasting things all day, like a Negroni at the end was the best thing because it helps you to like digest because it's got all those like strong flavors in it. It's a perfect cocktail for after Thanksgiving because after you eat all the things, you want something that you can taste and strong. But the shaken versus stirred is really controversial.
It is. So
and you're a shaken kind of man.
It turns out the reason why people don't like shaken cocktails is because when you shake a cocktail, two things it does. First of all, if you're using gin in a cocktail, it clouds the gin, which aficionados call bruising the gin, which is so shishi. But anyhow, it actually clouds the gin slightly when you shake gin. The other thing is that it chips the ice. So to some degree, the cocktail is watered down a little bit. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but we like these glasses better. That's why we drink them out of because we're just a little on the bougie side, and so so that's why we like them that way. But the taste, honestly, is pretty much the same, regardless of whether you shake it or whether you stir it.
Well, I think I'm definitely in your camp because usually when I ordered one that's stirred, I kind of wait for the ice to melt a little and
right.
to stir it anyway because they're so strong that I kind of like the water that you get from the shaken. So I think I'm on your team.
Okay.
For vermouth, I know that's something that people buy very rarely sometimes. And you guys, I know, make fancy cocktails at home often. So do you keep it in the refrigerator? How do you keep it fresh? I try to buy the smallest bottle I can when I and making things with it, but how do you keep it fresh?
So that's actually not a problem in our house. The white vermouth, one bottle of vermouth for the entire world, as the French say, for the martinis. But honestly, we don't keep it in the refrigerator, and I don't know that I've ever noticed any diminution in the flavor. But the other thing is that often when we're cooking, if something calls for a little to deglaze the pan, and something calls for a little splash of white wine, we'll use the white vermouth for that. I don't want to sound like we start drinking at 8 o'clock in the morning. We don't, but vermouth, it's never been a problem. We keep the vermouth in the cabinet with the alcohol, and it doesn't create a problem. One thing I will say, back in the 70s. Yes, I was drinking in the 70s. None of you were. I actually had cocktails back in the 70s. We were drinking red vermouth on the rocks as an aperitif. That's a long time ago, and it's a little on the sweet side. People were drinking red vermouth, people were drinking Dubonnet. And it's actually quite nice. It's a little peppery, it's a little sweet, and it's a nice way to sort of have an aperitif. But we've never had any problem. We don't keep it in the refrigerator because it doesn't last that long.
So either drink it quickly or keep it in the fridge, one or the other.
All right, so it's really neither. As some people know, I tended bar for 23 years. And sweet vermouth is not something in a dance club that turns over quickly. And we never refrigerated it. I dare say I probably worked 1 or 2 bars that had a bottle of sweet vermouth that must have been 7 years old.
Well, it is a wine product. It's a wine product. So it does go bad. It does diminish. So I'd argue keep it in the fridge if you're not using it often, if you have the fridge space.
That was actually my first drink. My first drink, and I went with my mother to a restaurant in Puerto Rico. I was about 12 or 13 years old. She had me tasting Insano on the rocks. That was her favorite. So sweet vermouth, Insano on the rocks is all she had all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
we had Austrian
everyone.
family, and they drank white vermouth on the rocks as an aperitif. Like I say, the French, and of course I'm not going to attempt the French, but the French talk about when you make martinis, the French talk about 1 bottle of vermouth for the entire world. So,
it's a little on the dry side.
Yeah, which is the way we like it.
Extra dry.
One question from the chat. I have a very important question from the chat. You guys were doing 2, 2, and 2. Christine is asking, can you do 3, 3, and 3?
Of course you can.
Of course you can if you want a bigger batch.
So I don't know how well you can see this. We have rather large martini glasses, and so when and these were a lovely wedding gift from a friend of ours. When you make them for our cocktail glasses, we use 2, 2, and 2. 1, 1, and 1 works. Although, as I said when I was making it, we tend to like it with a little less sweet vermouth, so we do 2, 2, and 1. Try it with the 2, 2, 1, 1, and 1, 2, 2, and 2, and see if you like it that way. We just tend to like it. The Campari, even though it's a little bitter, it's also a little on the sweet side. And so more of the red vermouth tends to make the drink a little sweeter. And if that's what you like, that's fine. The classic recipe is 1, 1, and 1, or 2, 2, and 2. You could make 5, 5, and 5 if you're making it for sure. Then there's no problem with that.
Pretty much, it's equal parts.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And this is a good one to batch cocktail for events, especially after a big dinner like Thanksgiving or a big thing. Once we're allowed to have big dinners again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When that happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it. So welcome, Marquis Nelson Bonaparte, our
Yay!
Hi, Nelson.
all the way from Puerto Rico.
How are you guys? How's everything? Just like to pop in and say hello to everybody, and just came in at the beginning of the cocktail hour. Interesting, because I don't drink anymore, but I remember those days. My mom, like I mentioned, my mom used to, when we went to this restaurant here in Puerto Rico, actually, which is no longer there. I was in the corner of Santurce and Calle Loiza, beautiful old-style restaurant that was there for ages, a Spanish restaurant. My first drink there was Insano on the Rocks, the sweet vermouth on the rocks, at the age of 12. So that's where I started. For my mother, that was kind of like my mother was kind of like the Puerto Rican Jew. She kind of like, at the age of 12, you're the man of the house, so you start, this is a rite of passage kind of thing. But it's interesting that you were talking about the Negroni and all that, because I used to love Negronis and Manhattans. Those were my favorite drinks. So, So I hope everybody's doing well. We'll be full on force next month with you guys for the next cooking with Imperial Court. So let's the Imperial Kitchen, and let's see what we do. Well, hopefully we'll have a lot of fun doing this. Yes. And I can't wait to try your, the recipe today, the lumpia. That will be wonderful.
Well, that's what we're doing next. Good segue.
Good. And Nelson, thank you. We thank you so much for the shirt that you're wearing.
you are loved. We saw a couple of places in all San Juan. So they have this color on, all these little buildings, and I said, Danny, take the picture over there and that one over there, because I figure this is where you guys would love to live in. This beautiful, lavender building. So, yeah, lots of purple, lots of lavender.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. But yeah, so that's, for anyone who doesn't know, that is actually the Reign 34 T-shirt that Nelson is wearing, with the slogan, "You are loved. What could be better?" Right? That's what could be better than that.
What could be better than that?
And it's true. What could be better than that? Nothing. And the rain color, which is lavender, purple, and what was the second color?
Purple and silver.
Purple and silver.
So if you want to take a picture to show your support of our monarchs, take a picture in some purple and silver together and shoot it their way.
There you go.
And so there's the cocktail. But what do we need to go with the cocktail?
Snacks.
Food, always.
Exactly, and not just any snacks, some fried goodness.
Because everything's better when it's fried, right?
It is. And so
fried is one of the food groups we're sure of it.
It is in this house anyhow.
It is in this house. So the fun thing about this is, so within the Imperial Court of New York, we have 2 Filipino monarchs. I am one of them, and Madelyn Keyth is the other one. So Lumpia is a very
That's
big.
in New York. On the West Coast, we have many
correct.
Filipinos.
The Imperial Court of New York. Thank you for that correction, because again, yes, in California and our West Coast, there's plenty.
I have a lot of Filipino sisters this year.
I was going to say, and I'm actually from the West Coast originally, so, and I know Madelyn was there for a long time as well. So, we just kind of all get over there and come back.
And I'm going to make the Empress a cocktail. Excuse me.
So tonight we're going to be making Empress Madelyn's recipe, which, just like the fact that there's thousands and tens of thousands of islands in the Philippines, there's just as many recipes for lumpia. Because so if you look at what's online to go with, oh yes, I believe that's Coco on our Empress Coco on saying she too is from the Philippines. My apologies. She's from New York. That's on the page that I believe is Coco. Yes, so we have many. And so you'll see the ingredients on tonight's recipe, but my family recipe is a totally different gamut with shrimp and celery added instead of the cabbage. So the whole, basically whatever you want to put in it, it's kind of how your family goes. Just like we were talking with Cutie Pie earlier, it's kind of like everybody's red sauce on the Italian side. No one is the same. So
absolutely.
So I've pre-prepped just so to make it easy, but I'm gonna pass it off to Empress Madelyn.
Okay. As Michael said, there are as many recipes for lumpia as there are stars in the sky. Every household has a different recipe for lumpia. They have a different recipe for another dish called pancit. There are very seldom times when different households will have the same recipe. It depends on how much spice you like, how many seasonings, and which seasonings that you care for. In my house, ginger was big. So we had ginger, we have soy, we have garlic. So the basic recipe for my lumpia has ground pork. There are variations with ground beef, ground pork and beef. You can even do them with shrimp. But pretty much it's ground pork. Some of the standards, and I'm going to show you this because I need you to see how well it should be shredded and the texture it should be before you're cooking. After you brown your pork, Austin, can you bring the camera in, please? Okay, because we're going to do the magic of television thing, and I'm a little crooked over here. There we go. We're going to do the magic of television, and the stuff's pretty much cooked. So I need you to see the textures. When you shred your carrot, it should be fine, but not minced. Your cabbage, I use Napa cabbage. You want a nice fine shred. Maybe slightly thinner than a coleslaw. Your green onion should be finely diced. Some people, I don't use it in my recipe because I have people around that are sensitive to the spices. Hot chili pepper or hot pepper flakes, very popular in the Philippines. They like a lot of spice. A lot of my dishes that are like my adobo and stuff, I've had friends come over who were from the Philippines and go, how come it's not hot and spicy? And I'm like, oh, I never made it that way. So I also used minced garlic and minced ginger. You can use the granulated. I like the texture and I like the saturation of flavor that I get from the minced products. So pretty much after you brown your pork and you add your other ingredients in, I pretty much put my vegetables in and stir them for no more than like a minute. And then I take everything off the heat. And I let it sit for a couple of seconds because any type of vegetables that you have going on, you don't want them to be so wilted that they're soggy. So you want a little bit of crispness, a little bit of bite left to the vegetables. And after I take it off the heat, I let it cool, and I like to take my whole mixture and put it in a wire strainer like this. The reason being, even though pork doesn't cook up as fatty as beef does, there's still a certain amount of moisture, and the vegetables are going to release a little bit of moisture too. So this has been sitting here a little while, but I'm going to show you. This did not look wet when I took it out, but you can see the amount of liquid that actually drained out. You don't want that liquid in your lumpia because the juice is going to make them wilt. You're going to release liquid into your hot oil, and it just gets messy. You want something that's going to be neat, clean, and crispy. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I sent my emperor, my husband, out with a shopping list for my lumpia, and this afternoon about 4 o'clock, he showed me, very proudly I might add, the spring roll wrappers that he got me. And it would have been great if I was making Thai spring rolls that weren't going to be cooked. They were wrong. So he dashed out and picked up some, I told him, make sure to go to the frozen food section. I need spring roll wrappers. So he grabbed what he thought was spring roll wrappers. And they were really egg roll wrappers. So I'm going to make lumpia, but I need you to know that when the lumpia is cooked in the proper spring roll wrapper, it doesn't bubble up like an egg roll. Egg rolls tend to have a slightly chewier, although these didn't, because of course I tasted everything. These did not come out very chewy. They came out nice and crispy because they're thin, but it has a different finish. So don't get alarmed. All my Filipino sisters, do not get alarmed that there are bubbles on my lumpia.
And for my mistake, look what I did for you, sweetheart.
Yeah, it's going to take a couple more of these to make up for that. Good job, honey.
I know.
All right, so getting back to the business at hand. Your lumpia will look like this, and I'm going to show you how to get there. Now, I did have a discussion with one of my sisters, and she asked me if I tucked the ends in on my lumpia. And I said, of course I do. And she gasped. She gasped like I stole her best pearl necklace. I've never really had them when the sides are open, and I don't know if that makes a difference, although I did try cooking one, and I just pinched the ends a little bit because I'm nervous about the grease and the oil getting inside. Something you can try. Now, as I said, there are a lot of variations. Hold on, I'm talking.
I know. I'm sorry.
As I said, there's a lot of variations on lumpia and how it's cooked. I have seen recipes where people put the mixture in raw. Never tried it, not that brazen. I like knowing that it's cooked because you don't have to cook these that long. You're just browning the actual wrapper or shell. So I like my mixture cooked. So now, if you're using a square wrap, because sometimes they are round, 1 good heaping tablespoon. You don't want to overwhelm the wrapper. These wrappers are thinner than normal egg roll wrappers, so you don't want them to break. I fold it up almost to meet, and then we're going to bring this back a little bit. You want to keep it very neat, and this is where I tuck. I mean, I tuck, but this is where I tuck. And we're going to keep that very neat. Keep a little bowl of water here, just like an envelope. You're going to seal your corner. Finish rolling. And set it down on the fold. When you put it in the frying pan, you should also put it down on the fold. Once it starts to cook, it'll stay that way and kind of create a seal. So we're going to do this again. Now, like I said, there's a lot of variations. The first lumpia I ever had was strictly ground pork, shredded carrots, and raisins. So I love the idea of a little sweet and savory. So I have a small poundful of raisins added to this. And just so you get an idea of the yield, this was 8 ounces of ground pork. And I will get 30 lumpia out of this. And when you do this for holidays with family, it's really fun because you're like a bunch of Cuban cigar ladies. You sit around, you talk, and you make 150 of these. Again, 1 good tablespoon. Pull it back. Do your envelope. We're there. If you do this with a few people, it is actually a lot of fun to sit around and have cocktails, make some lumpia. And if you do this with a group of people, that means you can produce, 100, 150, and everybody gets to take 25 home. They freeze really nicely. If you're making lumpia and you want to make a lot of lumpia, I suggest that you lay them out on a cookie sheet or something, but in between rolling them, put cellophane over them because the lumpia wrappers are very thin and you don't want them to dry out. So as you're laying them out, just keep a piece of cellophane on a saran wrap over the top so you keep in the moisture. Whatever you're going to cook, go ahead and cook, and whatever you're not going to cook, put in a freezer baggie, or you can use one of those, we call them sucky bags.
Vacuum cleaners.
Vacuum bags.
One of the vacuum sealers, yeah.
You know, sucky bags. Recently, I made some of these in July, and I went to a party on Tuesday. I took them out of the freezer, and I cooked the ones that I had made in July. They came out beautifully. Everybody loved them. So it's not that big a deal to freeze. Do you want to put the stove on?
Oh, we're going to fry them?
I'm going to show them how to fry a couple.
All right.
Things to remember. You're going to use about 3/4 of an inch of oil. You don't have to deep fry these because you're going to roll them. Peanut oil or vegetable oil work fine. When you remove them from the oil, you want to put them on a wire rack because you don't want them to get soggy. Let them drain. Wire rack, paper towel, depends on how long they're going to drain. I usually use a wire rack because I'm going to make 30 or 40 of them to bring someplace. and I want them to stay warm and crisp. When you place anything that you're going to fry into hot oil, rule of thumb, make sure that you lay it down away from you so you don't splash yourself with oil, number one. And number two, so you don't want to change the temperature of your oil. So don't have a beautiful pan of oil on medium to medium hot. That's 5 or 6 if you're on electric, about halfway up if you're on gas. If you drop in 10 or 15 lumpia, it changes the whole temperature of the oil. So you want to add a couple, wait a second, add a couple, wait a second. So you're not going to make some of them very crispy and some of them soggy. Okay? And there I got my photobombing Emperor. All right, so we had the oil hot before. We just put it back up. It shouldn't take but a couple of seconds. So Graham is going to fry these up for me because that's his job.
And I had the apron to go with it.
Yes. All right, so honey, take these.
All right, I still have to wait for the oil to cook.
And now we're going to just show you, through the magic of television, I learned this on those morning cooking shows.
And to give a quick little insight, I put a comment to show you everyone how easy it was. While Madelyn's been showing us the quick little step-by-step, I made my filling. It's super simple, super easy.
Okay, and here we have lumpia. Now I made these after I was dressed and about a half hour before Michael said, "Are you there?" Because the filling was already made. Again, these have a couple of little bumps because they're egg roll wrappers. White boy. As far as dipping sauces go, feel free to use the sweet and sour. You can, but remember all those little packets that you keep throwing in the drawer from the Chinese restaurant? Good time to use them. However, if you want something a little more authentic, try mixing. What are you using, those packets?
That's right here.
Something that has a lot of flavor to it and is less sweet. Seasoned rice wine vinegar, a little soy sauce, a little powdered or minced ginger, tiny bit. Again, I'm a big ginger freak. And then the same thing with either garlic powder or a little. I have minced garlic in this. So can you? So, and that would be another very popular dipping sauce. Either one are good. One is a little more tart and savory. The other one adds a sweetness to it. And again, raisins, they're an option, as are celery in Michael's recipe. And a lot of times I have heard people using shrimp. Any questions for me?
Yes, there are questions.
Okay.
Our Queen Mother Coco says that the only thing she puts inside is pork, and she doesn't pre-cook it. So that's like a whole nother thing. It's just a whole.
Well, that's what I had said. I had seen recipes where it's just pork and seasoning, and they roll them up and they cook the raw pork inside. Never tried it. I've been tempted, but I haven't tried it yet.
I'm not brave enough either.
Yeah,
that seems like a whole completely different. I am definitely more on the vegetable side of things, but that's one way to cook for sure. I think it's interesting the tuck versus no tuck. I feel like it's very similar to the shaken versus stirred. Like it's very much like how, what side are you fall on?
I mean, I like them tucked in because I don't want the meat to fall out and fall into my oil.
And to mess up your oil, yeah.
Right, and I don't want oil seeping in and creating a little oil pocket on the inside. This is the one that I didn't do the ends on. I kind of just pinched it, and it is nice and crispy. Versus
pretty.
The roll. I mean, it's kind of pretty. It looks like a little popper, a party popper. But let's see. When we open it up, it's not greasy at all. And just to make sure it's
crunch. That was a good, satisfying
crunch. Yeah, so it's still really good.
one thing I'm curious about, do you ever play with like seasonal ingredients? Do you use like leftover turkey and stuffing and make lumpia? Do you ever make dessert ones? Do you play with it in those kind of ways?
All right. So to me, playing with things like lumpia, no, not so much. When I make empanadas, yes. Pizza, yes. I've had Thanksgiving pizza. I've never thought about, because when I do lumpia, it's because I'm craving something from that side of my heritage. I mean, I am probably the most multi-ethnic person I've ever met. So I'm Filipino, Latino, Black, European, and American Indian. So I have a little bit of everything. But when I want to go back to, when I'm missing my grandfather, when I'm missing the Filipino food, it's all about the pork and the soy and the ginger. So to do something Americanized, not so much. I mean, turkey just is really weird because I don't even care for turkey at Thanksgiving, quite honestly. But
That's fair. That's fair. It's something that brings you back to a memory.
I guess I would try like maybe doing a little bit of an American version, maybe some pork and adding like some cheddar or something like that to it. But I haven't yet.
When I was overseeing the kids cooking classes, we would do it a different country every month, and we did lumpia, but then we would also do ones with like bananas and cinnamon for dessert, which is just
I would probably do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a plantain, cinnamon or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, to me, I tried making empanadas with fruit in it, and to me, it's a different pastry. And
It's fried pie.
but it should be a pie crust. The empanada crust, it's not conducive to fruit. It's not sweet.
Well, I
And the
guess
idea of
that
frying-
kind of goes to my next question is, what if when you're batch making these with like a whole family, you end up with like way too much filling and you ran out of wrappers, or way too much wrappers and you ran out of filling? So I feel like that's when the playing comes about. So what do you
could
do?
play, but however, the filling, just like when I make empanadas, I
Cook it
love
up.
that sucky bag thing. I can freeze that, defrost it. Two weeks later, when I get more wrappers or whatever, and I have the time, defrost it. It's already cooked, and just take up from there. The wrappers and stuff, I might play with them, but I tend to, quite honestly, just toss what I don't use. Although I have,
Well, maybe next time you'll play with them
I
and see
have
what you
actually
come up
taken
with.
lumpia wrappers that I had extra, and just fried them real fast. They like flash fry, and they're like the thinnest, lightest nacho chips you've ever had. They're so good.
Or like spread them and then fry it. Yeah, get a little.
They're delicious.
All right, so we do have some comments from Queen Mother, because I think I said she only used pork, but now she put her whole recipe in the comments. She uses ground pork with garlic, green onion, water chestnut, oyster sauce, carrots, eggs to bind, not pre-cooked altogether, open-ended. So she's on a completely different camp. So
Yeah,
maybe
well,
bring
it's just
her
like a
on
lot of
with her.
times, sometimes I'll use fish sauce instead of soy sauce. Fish sauce will give you a hint of a flavor of like an anchovy flavor. And like I said, I'll bring them to a party and nobody will even make a comment. Oh, this smells like fish. I know it smells like fish, and it has that hint of flavor, but it's for the saltiness. It's not overwhelming at all.
It's the umami.
Yeah.
She also gave a suggestion for any leftover filling. She said in scrambled eggs, which I think sounds beautiful. I feel like scrambled eggs is the use for any leftover anything.
This is true.
Wonderful suggestion.
Yeah, the leftover filling in my house, half the time we don't even get them wrapped because
Because I can just put it over white rice.
Yeah, just eat it. Exactly, you just eat it for sure. We'll turn it. Essentially, our pancit, which is another dish, filling is pretty much very similar to our lumpia filling, and we just kind of interchange it at that point.
Yeah. I have one question, which I feel like I'm waiting for the backlash for, is do you ever bake them?
I never have tried baking them. I think I might lose some of the crispiness that you get from frying.
Yeah.
I mean, I might try it and get back to you on it.
I've done it with those wrappers, and I've brushed them with coconut oil on a rack, and turned them halfway. They don't turn out the same as fried, but they definitely cook all the way through and end up crispy. So it's a, depending what you're making. And we're hearing
Stop
from
trying to make my delicious treat healthy.
Coco said no with 5 O's baking lumpia.
I agree. No baking in the lumpia.
No baking in the
And the
lumpia.
air fry is a little.
And
I love that.
just so you know, we're
Thank you,
actually
Coco.
double dipping because we're husband and wife, so we can double dip in the sauce. It's okay.
But it's funny to watch. So like we said, as you've noticed now, 3 different people, 3 different lumpia recipes. So something, just a fun fact about the Philippines that people don't usually think about, I think, is, there's roughly 20 to 30,000 islands, I believe, that make up the Philippines as a whole. And there are 3 main parts. The northern part is northern middle are Asian, like mainland Asia and Spaniard influence, but the southern part of the Philippines is actually Muslim.
Well,
So
my grandfather was born and raised in the Philippines, and his last name was Cortez.
Yep. My grandfather's last name Sadiq. So it's it depends on where you're from. Again, like just take that for inspiration of how many different versions of flavors there could be in this one.
And how many dialects of the Filipino language there are.
Yeah. I mean, this is, like you said, it's something that brings you back to your heritage. Like the only part of my Filipino heritage, because like Empress Madelyn, I am of multicultural background, Mexican, Filipino, English, Irish. But the food is all I know from the Filipino heritage is just food. So it's a good tie back in because it was my grandfather was from the Philippines, and he this year would have been 118 years old. But he, so he came from the Philippines in the mid 1900s, and he brought the food with him. So that's what our family has, is the food. And my mom's the one tasked with doing all the wrapping, so she just brings it everywhere. No one else really wraps it in our family. They just expect 300 to the family gathering.
Yeah, still white.
But something
Some egg roll wrappers instead of spring roll wrappers.
Right, and something that I'm not doing, but my mom always taught me was if you are, separate them, have them ready to go, but put a damp, like very, very, very mildly damp cloth over them because they do dry out and get very, like you, like this one's actually will dry out and it gets kind of crunchy to where you can't use it. So make sure that you keep them moist.
So you have to kind of treat them like you would do a phyllo dough.
Yes.
You keep them under a moist towel.
They're very similar to phyllo.
Yes, very much so. And so to go off of Empress Madelyn's little anecdote, these are spring roll wrappers. But just as a little informational, if you go to a Filipino store or a
Oriental grocery
store, like I have one in Jersey City. It's literally an Asian market. It has everything. You'll even find ones that are specifically lumpia wrappers. They're even slightly different than these. So
my Oriental grocery store doesn't have lumpia wrappers. They do have the spring roll wrappers though.
Yeah, so I lucked out. They have them. Sometimes some of them are even a little thinner and they're round. They're not square, so that does change the way you wrap them. 7,000 islands. There we go. I knew it was a lot.
And just to be clear, these still are freaking awesome.
That's it.
Even with the egg
It's
roll
the filling. It's the flavor.
They're amazing.
But literally, this can be like at holidays. These will be on every plate, right next to the turkey, right next to the ham. Literally, and in my family, because we're Mexican, it's literally tamales right next to lumpia, and then we all, for our American side of things, we always have chili beans. So literally, all that next to your standard food. So it's a little bit of everything. But a reminder, until we go into some more questions and just some more chit chat about food, is we are here to raise money. We're not just having fun in the kitchen, even though that's what we're doing. And so as you see in the bottom, scrolling down, the net proceeds of tonight's broadcast is Training Place Shelter, which is one of our nearest and dearest beneficiaries and partners. They are a 10-bed LGBTQ youth homeless shelter based in New York City and Manhattan. And you can go to icny.org/kitchen to donate, and the donation for that actually will be open through the end of the month, and then those will be processed and sent to them, which will help them, depending if we close a little early, it'll help them with Thanksgiving, or it'll help them with their holiday dinners in December, because they do rely on donations for their full operation. So if you're not able to donate right now or at the end of this month, if you go onto their website, TrinityPlaceShelter.org, you can also donate your time. You can donate food directly delivered. So we do that. So this is why I'm happy that we're doing something like this for them. And I know Empress Madelyn and Emperor Graham, they're doing some stuff also for, don't mind my dog just dropped his really loud toy in the back. So normally for the past 5 years, myself and other members, we've been doing what we do, potlucks at Trinity Place Shelter. And so normally there'd be a Thanksgiving or a holiday potluck around this time. So we're trying to help, raise some money for them to be able to keep doing that, since we're not able to go and eat with them and sit with them and bring in food. But just a little information about what they're going through with the COVID-19 and everything for the past, 8-9 months, however long it's been now. Time is not existent anymore at this point.
Yeah.
So from their executive director, Wendy Kaplan, so her notes are, they are now running at nearly 2 times their normal capacity. They're normally 8 hours a day, 10 beds, and the residents go out and they have their jobs, they have school, but obviously those things are shut down for a lot of them. And so they've operated now 24 hours a day, not just 8 hours a day. And they're no longer quarantined, but they still are open 24/7 because a lot of their residents, they don't have anywhere else to go except for the shelter. Because youth drop-in centers are closed right now. Libraries are basically closed, as she notes. So Trinity Place remains open 24/7 to keep their residents safe and provide them a stable place to access a computer, plug in their Wi-Fi, do their work from home. So there's, like she said, it's safe space for 24/7 happening right now. So their need has really grown more than what we normally are able to provide them. So hopefully we can all band together. And I've come up with this weird analogy. I don't know why, but that one snowflake, drops and melts, but you get a million snowflakes and turns into an avalanche. So if we can all just be, that $1 times 1,000 people, $1,000 right there. And then her other note is, these anxiety-filled times, it means the world to be reminded of a community we have in each other. So what we do with them is what she's talking about that. Thank you, Jen, for posting that again. So the link, you can click on it in the comments, since I know it's just scrolling across. But that's why we're here. And then just a little bit about the program, since this is our first time doing Imperial Kitchen Series. We will be doing a different dish and cocktail every month. We will be having different guest chefs, guest stars, however you want to call them, on every month, and a different beneficiary every month. So we're trying to use this new platform to do as much help as we can. So if you are interested in being one of our guests, reach out to any one of the 3 of us, and Cutie Pie and myself, and we'll get you on the roster. If you have even if you don't want to be on the guest, but you have a recipe you think we should make, let us know. We're always building up the roster for this. But if you can donate the cost of Negroni to your favorite bar, there we go. I love that. You know what?
And just so you know, the Negronis actually augment the Lumpia. It's quite a lovely flavor combination.
I mean, I've never tried. It's just something to try.
Just like you two together as a partnership and an emperor and empress, like you just complement each other.
I love Saltine Cracker just made a very large dish, and thank you so much for that. Just purely to save herself from having to attempt to cook. And Coco says, Nelson, pernil.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah. I love it.
Definitely, we will do a pernil. I'll definitely work on that. Definitely.
And then, so yeah, we'll get that on the roster. But for the Thanksgiving dinner, so Empress Madelyn and Emperor Graham are actually going to be dropping off a Thanksgiving dinner to Trinity Place Shelter, which is amazing this year.
You still need help with that? Do you still need volunteers or help?
You have
I think we're
now.
good on that. We plan on doing dropping off food for Trinity Place Shelter to get them through not only Thanksgiving, but give them an extra few days of snacks and make sure they have enough leftovers and stuff to enjoy it for a few days. and then we'll be heading over to God's Love We Deliver. And because of the way the pandemic has fanned out, we'll probably have 3 or 4 people in our car, and we're going to actually do some deliveries this year instead of just greeting people.
I love it.
So
I have a quick question on the Negroni. The mocktail version of that, what would that be? Would that be grenadine, club soda, and a little lime juice?
no,
No.
so it turns out that the original recipe had club soda in it instead of the sweet vermouth. And Count Negroni didn't like the club soda because apparently it weakened his damn drink down. So he wanted something more in it. So that's how the sweet vermouth got added. Honestly, this is one of those things because of the gin and because of the Campari, which are 2 very strong flavors. Actually, now that I've read this thing, I might actually try with a splash of club soda just to see what it tastes like.
All right, so Nelson, I think the closest you would get to this would be using bitters, club soda, and a dash of cranberry juice.
Cranberry juice. Okay.
That'll give you the tartness and the bitterness
Right.
with a touch of sweet. No grenadine, though.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't use grenadine. That would be, I think, too sweet.
Too sweet.
Yeah.
I might see if I can come up with a mocktail version for you.
Yeah.
And we'll get that posted for sure because that is something that we will try to do every time as long as we're able to. We'll get a mocktail version because we understand there are a lot of people who don't drink, so we don't want to get.
And you can always, I mean, if you want to, you can always just boil some juniper berries in some water, and that would be no poison.
What is your thought on that?
I don't want to experiment on that.
I'm going to have to cut the Emperor off.
Lumpia.
That was that 3-3-2 proportion. Speaking of.
But guys, are there any questions from anyone that's watching? If you put it in the chat, we'll ask some questions. We have a couple more minutes left.
Well, this has been fun for our very first impromptu cooking hang.
And the best part is I don't have to worry about my lipstick and I can have lumpia.
Yeah.
I meant to ask a quick question, and I think I posted it on the scroll on the page. You use coconut oil, canola, or vegetable oil for the frying?
I use vegetable or peanut oil.
Vegetable or peanut. Okay.
Yeah, I've only ever done.
I've never tried canola oil, but I guess you could. Coconut oil will mess with the flavor.
Okay.
As would olive oil.
Yeah, olive oil wouldn't be good either.
And olive oil for batch big frying like that isn't really that good anyway. So.
Well, so it turns out if you use plain olive oil, it's fine. It's the extra virgin because it has a lower smoking temperature, and so you tend to burn the. But if you can find just plain, not extra virgin olive oil,
it would mess with the flavor.
Yeah.
But I am going to try celery now in one of these batches. As a matter of fact, I might just add some celery to the mixture I have left. I love the crunch of celery.
So we've learned Empress Madelyn's. We've seen Empress Coco. So mine, I'll say it and then I'll post it in a comment on the event page. So ours is obviously ground pork is the easiest for time and just ease. But we've also done diced pork chop to actually have a bite in it. You can use the bay shrimp or not, but we use the shredded carrots, diced celery, garlic powder, no ginger. So again, very different, very similar, but very different. And then you do the same kind of thing and you cook it, and we add bean sprouts at the end to ours for that crunch.
Because you're from California.
Yeah, it's a California thing.
You have to have bean sprouts if you're from California.
I'll pass the video along to my mother and have her talk to you about that.
I'm afraid of your mother. She's this big and scares me.
Isn't that most Filipino mothers? I'm just saying. But yeah. So,
I feel like for future months, we should have like the Imperial court person sharing their recipe, and then their mom on the screen yelling at them, telling them how they're doing it wrong. Right? Like, oh no, why you do it that way? Right?
Definitely. So
We would raise
Why
so
you do
much
like
money.
that?
any Imperial Court of Anywhere members that want to do that, no, we'll sign you up. We'll get you on.
We'll call it the Cooking Smackdown.
Generation battle.
Yeah, Coco says water chestnut or jicama for crunch. Yeah, again, literally the standard flavors in the Philippines are, like Madelyn said, a little bit of spicy, but soy and vinegar.
Yeah, soy vinegar, something spicy, garlic, ginger, bay leaf, a lot of bay leaf.
Yep. So base your fillings around that, and you can really make
pretty much anything. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, so we are a couple minutes left. So I want to thank my two co-producers because I could have, again, I am a home cook. Do it as a hobby. I almost went to culinary school, but I didn't. I went to music school. But my other two here are trained and professional, so I rely on them heavily.
I'm very professional.
I know. I love your rack right there, Cutie Pie. What's on your rack? What do you have? What spices do I see there? What?
Sprinkles.
Yes.
Yay.
Anise.
Oh wow.
Ooh, yes.
The essentials like popcorn. I don't know. Oh, mold and salt. This is an actual essential. Mold and salt. Oh.
What's it called?
So mold and salt, just the salt that's like in a crystal formation.
Yeah.
It makes everything delicious. Like a regular salad, put a little pinch on top. Makes it delicious. It's amazing. Mold and salt.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, you remind me of the book that I was reading. I showed you.
It's all my things.
I have to laugh because in order to get the right height for this view and not have the can lights for all of you, you are all sitting on a mass amount of cookbooks. It's just, you know.
So Michael, you're in the process of moving. That's why everything's everywhere right now.
I'm in the process of working from home. That's why everything's everywhere right now. No, it definitely needs to be cleaned up for sure. But yes, so to our monarchs, did you have fun?
Yes, absolutely. This was loads of fun. This was hysterical. I loved it. I loved it. Plus, I get to eat lumpia. How
I mean, again,
hello.
What is your slogan?
Food, cocktails, good company.
Absolutely.
I'm good.
Doesn't get any better than this.
Exactly. What could be better than that? Title back in the screen. Just saying, hey. And
I have one question.
Yes.
I think from Coco, because she's like all about the show. I think Coco needs to be a guest star next month.
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, and just so we know, Coco, we are going to take.
She has a question,
Filipino food,
which I think we can all answer. Maybe is what is one condiment you use on almost anything?
Ranch.
And I'll answer first, and I'll say Dijon mustard because sometimes I put it into sauces, sometimes I put it into like at the bottom of a quiche just to give a layer.
Okay.
It's one of those things that I make for so it's a condiment, right? Yeah. So,
I like Dijon mustard as well, and I use it to season some pork chops, and I make a little bit of sauces or when I marinate things with it. So yes, this is the one that I use as most as well.
I just made.
Coco says hers is fried shallots, which is also on the shelf.
Ooh.
So I just made roasted a chicken. It's a long. Doesn't matter the recipe. You roast the chicken in a skillet in the oven. Blah 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 blah. When you take it out, the pan sauce had a tablespoon of Dijon mustard in it, as well as lemon, and it just adds a little bit of just a umami flavor. I think that's what it is.
It's like a magic little thing.
Very basic kind of like Worcestershire sauce does, or any of those kinds of things.
All right, does soy sauce count?
Yes.
Yeah.
I use soy sauce in like so many things where he like looks at me like, what? But again,
I put it in my chili.
there's soy sauce in my stuffing at Thanksgiving.
You sometimes need that like salt.
Yep. It's all about the different. I've learned, like, been learning that, and at work we're learning that too. But dipping wise, for anything except apart from Asian food, I will give it that. Apart from Asian food, ranch for me. I'm just saying.
Oh my God, you're such a
You're such a
millennial.
kid.
Oh my God.
Hey, I'm a ketchup mayo guy. Puerto Rico is ketchup mayo, which is it's a Puerto Rican version of ranch.
Ruby Starling says jalapeno aioli.
Everything here is ketchup mayo. We go to a store, everywhere you go to, a picadera, whatever, they give you a carne frita, ketchup mayo on the side. It's like, okay, I love it.
But yeah, I love it. Like I said, Ruby Starling says jalapeno aioli on everything.
Yeah.
For all you keto eaters, there you go, jalapeno aioli.
Yeah, really.
Is very
Is butter a condiment?
Yes. I say yes.
All right. Well, this has been lovely, and thank you for making this very first trial test run of this work. Maddie and Graham, because you're so amazing, I think this has been so amazing.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be back next month with some holiday type things. And I think in January, we're going to suck in Ruby Starlin with some like resolution type things. Like if people are just coming on to keto, or maybe we'll do mocktails for the people that are taking the month off. Or
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Good idea.
But I think December we'll keep it decadent a little. And then we'll, we'll go back to decadent. Yeah. Resolution.
Right. And again, just a reminder, the donation will be open through the end of the month for Trinity Place Shelter. And we'll be back next month. But also, if you have friends you want to send this video to, it'll be on our live on our Facebook where you're watching it now. But we also have a YouTube channel, Search Imperial Court of New York on YouTube. And a lot of our events and shows will be there as well. You can't donate after they're on there, but they'll be there. So take a look and share it around, because, we can only raise as much money as we can from the people that share these videos and share our message. So again, we have I won't join for a mocktail from Saltini Cracker.
We can have options.
Exactly, option Saltini. But yes, thank you, Nelson. Any parting words?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Maddie and Graham. Great. Thank you so much. It was beautiful. Love this premiere version of Imperial Kitchen, and looking forward to many more. So, and thanks to everybody who connected with us, and please donate, help Trinity Place Shelter, and thank you all. From Puerto Rico, we say, we love you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Okay, and our monarchs, you get the closing words.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This was lovely. I had a really good time.
It was fun.
You guys are doing such great stuff, and I look forward to tuning in and learning new recipes and cocktails.
We are so grateful to all of you, our membership, for putting together things like this, because they're fun, and we get to raise money for important organizations. So thank you. We really do appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a good night, everybody.
You too. Good
night,
everybody.
Bye.
Till next time.
Cocktails, Lumpia.